World War II wargaming sometimes feels like one of the most divisive topics in the hobby. And whilst I'm honestly dead against the assumption that you must be some kind of wrong'un to play those kinds of games, I do kind of understand why people feel that way. I guess for some people, seeing these dudes trotting around on the table whilst the person commanding them is laughing maniacally and making pew-pew noises, well, probably just feels a little bit like it's in bad taste. But today I'm not here for that debate. In fact, what I want to show you today kind of makes that whole debate irrelevant, sort of. Warlord games are, at this point, kind of a household name amongst wargamers for their World War II game, Bolt Action. But it is probably a slightly lesser known fact that Bolt Action also has a sister game. Whilst the scenes you're enjoying here look similar to World War II, you're probably noticing some weird differences. And weird is actually a great word to use because this whole Weird War II vibe is actually kind of a whole ass genre. Indie darling Trench Crusade is often referred to as Weird War 1 and sits amongst a few other games in this category. Essentially what these Weird War games all have in common is that whilst they base themselves aesthetically on whichever is their preferred world war, and of course they do usually use the history as the jumping off point for their storylines, anything beyond a cursory glance will show you quite quickly that the book soon goes out the window and the silliness starts. And then, well, it just keeps going. Now, Konflikt 47 happens to be a really well-established game in this genre, and it already has quite a cult following. But it also happens to have very recently gotten a new edition, and that means a new starter set. So my question is it time for Konflikt 47 to go mainstream? Straight out of the gate, I need to make you clear just how good the value for money proposition is in this new starter box. I'm going to be showing you this same image a lot here because, well, it covers everything, but just bear in mind as you're just looking at this from a distance, this is a £95, a sub £100 starter box. Just to go over everything for you quickly, there are 2 resin leader miniatures, 1 for each side. There are 2 3-man squads of Axis power armor, like heavy infantry kind of guys. 2 6-man squads of USA jump troops, so these are like jetpacking guys. There's a big ass kind of walker vehicle thing for each side. The German one is kind of spider-like, and the American one is called a linebacker, and it looks like a big beefy dude. And then, yeah, like a whole bunch of injection molded ruin pieces, and in fact, besides from the 2 resin characters, almost everything in this box is actually injection plastic, even like the tokens and stuff. And to top all of that off, the sprues not only contain all the weapon options, there's no having to buy upgrade packs or whatever, but they also contain alternate heads, alternate legs, optional bits that you might want to stick on, so you get customization, posability, and lack of repetition just built into the standard experience. And look, 22 models and 4 sprues of ruins might not feel like a huge starter box if you're used to like GW boxes where they're pumping out things like this. But will Warlord focus really hard with their starter sets on giving you a proper broad taste of the game? So you get the posable models, the vehicles, the terrain, something that feels like an experience and just kind of covers what you need to get you going. The game uses Warlords by now familiar, if you know their games. Each unit adds a dice to the bag and then you draw them randomly to activate those units kind of system. Except in K47 they do have these rift dice as well, which let you kind of power up and do special moves with your units. It sounds silly, but actually in context it really works. It's actually super cool. And one of I think the important points that I really want to get across in this video is when you talk to players of Warlord games, one of the things that you hear a lot from them is that this system feels really fair. I mean, sure, look, there's going to be times where the same faction draws multiple dice in a row, and so one player gets to activate multiple times back to back. But the important distinction here is that you are activating a unit at a time, which could be as little as one person in the case of a character, one vehicle, or a squad. This means that you're never in a position where your opponent's entire army gets to go twice before you even do anything. So it kind of just feels like fog of war fuzziness, and it's fun. It allows for dramatic comebacks, it's interesting. It's not what you would think the kind of game-breaking double turn infamy mechanics of other games might be like. However, whilst we're on the subject of fairness, there is another point I do need to address in this video, and it has already nearly got me strung up online once, so I want to be careful how I go into this one. Yeah, the two halves of the starter set aren't points balanced. But that's okay, they don't have to be. Allow me to explain. So when I costed up the US stuff, I was fairly minimal with upgrades and all that, and they came in at a little over 700 points. And much like Bolt Action, K47 plays kind of 1,000 to 1,500 points. Some people play bigger games because units are more expensive and they want to play bigger forces, but 1,000 to 1,500 points is about normal. But conversely, when I costed up these guys, the Axis, the bad guys, they came in way under. I think it was like under 500, like significantly under, like noticeably under. And I actually even put a few upgrades on them, and they still came out that way. What I want you to bear in mind is this is a starter box. The idea is that you take this box and you use it to teach someone how to play the game. It doesn't necessarily represent what you collect and field normally, what your opponent collects and fields normally. It's a little set put together where you can kind of give your opponents the unbalanced USA force and make them feel like the hero, and that kind of gets them really into the game. And actually, I played my demo game of K47 exactly this way at Partisan, and it was really fun. It made me want to play the game. You can add to these forces, take away from them, use them in all sorts of different combinations and permutations. You can use them as the basis for the armies that you build going forward, or you can keep the box self-contained as just a here's my little teach people to play K47 kit. None of it really matters, it's your game and your choice. But if hitting parity is something you really care about, well, this one little box actually makes the armies completely even, all on its own. In fact, you don't even need all of it. Adding just 9 of these 12 dead dickheads to the Axis force actually brought the two armies to almost perfect points parity for me. And I actually kind of like that, because I feel like in a game like this, where it does feel like there's kind of clear bad guys and good guys, it's handy to have a bad guy force, right? Because a lot of people want to play the heroes, so if you've got a bad guy force, that's something that you've always got to play against other people. So like having to buy a few extra guys for the bad guy force to bring it to points parity, as weird as it sounds, almost felt like a bit of a feature for me, not a bug. What's more, I'm so glad I bought these zombies because they were just so nice to paint. They're really, really enjoyable miniatures. In fact, what I ended up doing was posting a full recipe for how I speed painted them on Instagram. So if you're not following me there, then obviously head over to Instagram. There's a link to all my socials down under this video. But I will be honest with you, one of the reasons I'm so excited for K47 is because surprisingly, something people don't tend to associate with historical games, it's actually all been really fun to paint so far. Look, I'm not even close to finishing the starter box yet. I have had a lot of commission work on lately. I have been a busy boy. I've tried to get as much of it done for this video as I can. And what I will say is, all of it, every bit, has just been really fun. There's so much variety. Again, a surprise, not what I expected. Armour plates, fatigues, skin tones, edge highlights, camo patterns, true metallics, glowing bits. I really honestly don't think I could ever get bored painting for this game, and I haven't even scratched the surface of its model range yet. But what I think is really cool is that it's not a historical game. It looks like one, but it isn't. So if, like viewer of the channel and Warlord staffer Stephanie here, you want to paint your Soviet bloc in bright fucking purple, fill your boots. You are quite welcome to do so, because it ain't history, it's fun. The game is fast-paced and can utilise a bunch of readily available terrain that's already on the market. The miniatures tend to be mostly plastic and are heading more towards being plastic. They're well detailed, they're very encouraging for new painters to paint. Not to mention that you get a ton of options on the sprue, which is something I'm always a big fan of. Konflikt 47 is an alternate history sci-fi game that you definitely should be playing. It's affordable, it's fun, and it takes history, which is really, when you think about it, the grimmest and darkest setting possible, and does really weird stuff with it. I love bolt action. I love collecting and painting those models, but Konflikt 47 I found kind of scratched a really unexpected itch for me. It gave me old school, like Warhammer 2nd edition kind of vibes, and I've not really gotten those vibes in any strong way since, well, 40k 2nd edition. I popped a little link below to the Warlord store. Go and have a look around. Not even necessarily to buy anything, just go and have a look around at the range of models on offer. It's really surprising. And if you do decide to buy anything, that link is tracked so they'll know that you sent me and they'll give me a little pat on the back in order for you doing so. So that would be great because you can support the channel too. While you are checking out stuff down below, obviously I have to point out there's the usual Patreon. My store is down there where you can buy our beautiful sable brushes that we make. They're actually really nice and a good Christmas present. I don't want to keep waffling on, so thank you for spending a little bit of time with me to talk about K47, Konflikt 47. It's a funny old game. It feels like a bit of an anomaly, yet once you actually start to dive into it, it's really comfortable and familiar. I'll see you in the next one, folks. Bye for now.